Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chapter 7. Let me just share the PowerPoint with you. In Chapter 7, we're going to be going over the femur and the pelvic girdle. Let's start the slideshow from the beginning. So, in the pelvis, we're going to have to know all the parts of the pelvis, and for the femur, we're going to need to know all the little parts of the femur. So the proximal femur consists of 4 essential parts: the head, the neck, and the greater and the lesser trochanters. The head of the femur is rounded with a smooth part for articulation with the hip bones. It contains a depression or pit near the center called the fovea capitis, where a major ligament called the ligament of the head of the femur, or the ligament capitis femoris, is attached to the femur. Just so that you can know how to pronounce some of these words, the lesser trochanter, enterotrochanteric crest, and let's move on here. So, where's my little laser pointer? All right, so here's the little dip that they're calling for the little hole, the fovea capitis, okay? These femurs are with the feet pointed inwards. And the reason I can tell that is because the greater trochanters point out. When you move your legs, that's the way they're supposed to be. When your feet are splayed out, the greater trochanter rotates backwards and you won't be able to see the bump. Okay, this part right here would rotate to the top and you won't be able to see the lesser trochanter. So this is looking at the anterior part of the femur, and this is looking at the posterior part of the femur, right here on the posterior side. So you can't see it when you're doing an AP view, but it's right here because this is the ridge, the enterotrochanteric crest. This is the greater trochanter. This is the lesser trochanter. So here's where the femur sits on the body, and there is a 5 to 15 degree angulation of the femur already. And it says plus or minus 10 degrees, so that means some are more, some are less. And here's where it sits in relationship to the hip and the pelvis. So the pelvis serves as the base of the trunk and forms the connection between the vertebral column and the lower limbs. The pelvis contains 4 bones, 2 hip bones, which are also called the innominate bones, 1 sacrum, and 1 coccyx. So the sacrum and coccyx are actually part of the vertebral column, and they get discussed in another chapter. You just need to know all the little parts of the pelvis bones. So going through the pelvis, you can see these 2 big bones right here. They are the innominate bones. They're also called the ossa coxae. Now this little guy right here, this whole green one, is the sacrum. And this right here is the coccyx. Most people have 2 or 3 bones here. Some people have more, some people have less. Now when we get down to it, the sides of the pelvis are divided into more bones with names. Like this one is the ilium. It's also called the ala, or the wing. This right here is the acetabulum. This is where the head of the femur sits. This blue part right here is the pubis. It forms the brim of the pelvis, comes over here to the pubis symphysis, and comes all the way down. And halfway through, it becomes the ischium. So the ischium is half of your butt bone, and the pubis is half of your butt bone. And you can see it from the side here. This is the ilium. Here is the acetabulum, the pubis right here, and then the ischium comes all the way up around. So, looking at it from the side, here is the iliac crest, right? And this is on the front side. We have the anterior superior iliac spine, which is your as is or your ASIS. And then underneath it, we have the anterior inferior iliac spine. So superior is top, inferior is bottom. Right below that, we have the acetabulum. Onto the back of the pelvis, we also have the posterior superior iliac spine and the posterior inferior iliac spine. And this is the ala or the wing right here. So the whole big part. So looking at it from the side, here is the whole ischium. All right. This part right here is the ischial tuberosity. This is where you have connections of your tendons on your butt bone, essentially. This is the ischial spine, that part that pops out to the back there. We have the lesser sciatic notch and then the greater sciatic notch. So you've probably heard of the sciatic nerve. That's where those go through. So looking at the pubic bone from the front, the holes that this create are called the obturator foramina. Any hole is a foramina. Okay, well, a big hole is a foramina. The one that the ischium creates is the obturator foramina. So this little part right here is the pubic symphysis. This shows it from the side. We have the inferior ramus and then the superior ramus. All right. Here are the bony topographical landmarks of the pelvis. This is where we put our hands on the pelvis, except for the pubis symphysis, okay? We can feel the greater trochanter, and if you see the greater trochanter right here lines up exactly with the pelvic brim. So if somebody can move their leg, you can find the bottom of the pelvic brim. Up here we have the iliac crest, which is where we put our hand for L-spines, abdomens, and all that good stuff. And then a little bit forward, we have the anterior superior iliac spine. Okay, iliac crest, ASIS. And there's the inferior ASIS, and then the ischial tuberosities. Now we're not going to go feeling for those as well. And that is it. We'll get into more into the rest of it in just a moment.